welcome everybody, and thanks Sensei for giving us the kickstart. My name's Sean Benson, and I'm one of your hosts for Punch, Kick, Choke Chat. I'm so excited for this week. Thank you all for joining us at our earlier time, 8:30. I think it suits the summer vibes. I think we can probably go have a beer or a near beer with a little bit of light left when we're done this. I'm super excited for this week to chat with the Sensei, who Sensei Dauphin will introduce. Because I've been on the floor with him. I've met this man, and I'm just so excited, as with all of our guests, to hear the story. And again, it's just such a treat. You know, we've been chatting, all of us who are hosting this, about just what an opportunity this is for us to be able to chat with all of you. And also, as you know, I sort of get the goosebumps being included in this rarefied company. And it really is rarefied company. And if you're a lower ranker, newer to martial arts, I think one day you'll go, wow, we really just tuned in every Thursday night and watched this thing that had masters who literally imparted their wisdom, their way of life, and their training and their history. It's nuts. And the one thing I was saying to the senseis last week, you know, with the weaponless warriors, I don't want to put ourselves on any kind of a level that we don't deserve. But imagine if you could have gotten real-time recordings of all those masters in the weaponless warriors. We're hoping humbly that that's the kind of thing we're doing here with you all. Imagine that. Imagine if we had Matsumura on video talking about the history of his training. That'd be nuts. So in any case, my name's Sean Benson. I'm so excited to be here. Every week I get the pleasure of introducing Sensei Nicholas Suino. He's an 8th degree black belt in Iaido, a 6th degree black belt in Judo, a 5th degree black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And, you know, I always think of a wonderful way to compliment him. This week, I'm going to simply say, unless I have the number wrong, the man has 9 books published. Is that the correct number, Sensei?
I think that's right.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. If you've ever written a novel, writing the novel isn't the end. Getting the novel published, that in itself is an achievement so far beyond just writing the novel. So I actually want to just throw you some love and some light for that one, Sensei Suino, because as a guy who's written unpublished novels, I've got that one on my shelf as well. It guides me through my training when I haven't seen you in long enough, for Sensei Dauphin. So you can talk about that or not, but it's a pleasure to be in the company of not just an incredible martial artist, but a truly prolific author.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Sensei? Yeah.
Great to see you again. I know we were just chatting a couple hours ago in preparation for this. And thanks for that introduction. Yeah, I'm so fortunate to have been able to do that. I don't know why, but I woke up one day when I was 7 or 8 years old and said, I'm going to write a book. And I wrote some cockamamie little thing and stapled it together and just never stopped. And we talk a lot on this show about pivotal moments. You know, why we're all here today, you know, who started you in martial arts, how we met. And for me, a pivotal moment was deciding that I wanted to remember as much as I could about the experience of training with my teacher, Yamaguchi Sensei, in Tokyo. And so when I moved back to the States, one of my first projects was writing for myself a manual of what I did. And that's what ended up turning into Art of Japanese Swordsmanship. After sending out 500 queries for the fiction that I had written up until that time, I sent out 3 letters for Art of Japanese Swordsmanship to 3 publishers, and all 3 wanted the book. Very different experience. So sometimes the time is right. And the time is right now for me to introduce Randy Dauphin Sensei, a good friend of mine, a very accomplished martial artist. He's high ranking in karate and high ranking in Iaido, which I know because I'm the one that gave him that rank. And speaking of pivotal moments, as many of you have heard, the reason that Randy and I are friends and compatriots and training partners is because we met through Hanchi Legacy many, many years ago, who took an interest in Iaido and allowed me to share some of my experience with the Legacy Club. I can't remember how long it's been, but it's been, well, I think we were talking last time. It's been a long time. And I hope it'll continue to be a long time that I have a relationship with a group that I consider some of the finest martial artists I've ever met, leading to this today. I don't know how the idea for Punch, Kick, Choke, and Chat originated, but I think of it as Randy's brainchild. I think he suggested it to me, and it took off like wildfire since then. I'm honored to be a part of it, and I know everybody that comes on this program just has an amazing time. I've watched all our episodes, you know, the recorded versions again on YouTube, and it's amazing how much fun we have. And a big part of that is thanks to Randy, who brought us together as well, Sean. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Randy. I know he's got some introductory duties to carry out, and great to see you again. Thanks for coming last night to the virtual workout, and take it away.
Yeah, JMac18, I've been unabashedly ripping you off in my own fitness classes with JMac18. So I always get the opportunity to introduce our guests, and I get the opportunity to introduce Hanshi Legacy. I'll backtrack just a little bit. If you've never trained with Nick Suino, any Ido, or judo, or anything for that matter, in his program permissions, he's just a person who excels at everything that he does. Like, it's not surprising that he's written this many novels. It's not surprising that he was a multi-time champion living in Japan. It's not surprising that he's so accomplished in judo and runs so many successful businesses. I look up here and I have this saying that I have written in my dojo: how you do anything is how you do everything. And Sensei Suino does everything amazing, like everything. I often say, if he turns a doorknob to come into a room, he does it better than anybody who ever did it before him. So if you have the opportunity to train with him, you want to do it. So Hanshi Legacy is a 10th degree black belt. He has trained with Harold. He started his martial arts career with Harold Warden. I consider him, these are my words, he is a living disciple of Sensei Benny Allen, living disciple of that person, and carries forward the touch of death that Benny Allen taught him to carry forward. He also trained for a long time with Richard Kim, which came up on the last call. If you have an opportunity to watch that one, him and Sensei Copeland had a great conversation. I think it was a great moment on this show with the two of them talking about Richard Kim. And most recently, he trains with a person that I've had the opportunity to be on the floor with, just an amazing martial artist. I'm going to be as bold enough to say the father of White Crane, especially in North America, Anthony Sandoval, a Marine who was stationed in Okinawa for 18 years, trained with all the prolific masters. And these are the teachers of Sensei Legacy. A couple other things you want to know about him is he has fought like some of the big names. He spent some time on the floor with some of the big names. You know, I'm not going to say I'll let him ever speak to if he wants to. He's going to be on the next show, so he can speak to if he win, lose, or draw. But he's fought Billy Hines. He's fought Rick Joslin. He's fought Wally Slokey. They've stood on the mat across the ring from each other and stared at each other in the eyes and fought each other. Another thing about Sensei Legacy that he is what he looks like, but he's so much more. If you look at Sensei Legacy, you know, he looks like a karate master to me. He looks like a motorcycle enthusiast to me. He looks like a great athlete to me. He's so much more than that. He is so deep. He has so many experiences. And I'm going to steal what Sensei Suino and I were talking about him. He said he has the way, he's highly intelligent, and he has the way to deliver a message that's just 100% clear and directly to the point. For me, he's given me a different life. I'm always grateful to him, love him dearly. He's like a father figure to me. Well, I say he is my last living parent. And that's my introduction about Sensei Legacy. Also, an author, and that will be coming out really soon. I'm the hold up on that. He's just waiting for me. Sensei Suino, I know, is like, wants to slam me on my head because this isn't done yet too. So, but anyway, tonight we're talking about just an awesome guy. One of my best friends, James Fries. You know, right now, so much is going around on the internet, and everybody, it seems, is making it about them, right? Like, oh, this is about me, whatever the slant you want to take. one of the things I love about James Freeze is it's never about him when you're with him. He never makes it about him. He always makes it about everybody else. He's always a big picture thinker. The other thing I really love about this guy is he does what he says. Like if this guy says he's going to do something, just sit back and watch, because it inevitably is going to happen. You're going to see it happen when this guy says whatever it is. He just in an evening, in one day, he raised like $20,000 for a charity, like in one day. He just said he was going to do it, and then he did it. Our paths crossed so much. I met James at the same time that I met Kyoshi, Adette, Rice. So Kyoshi Freeze and I and Adette met all at the same time. I train with James's instructors. He trains with my instructors. He hangs out with my friends. I hang out with his friends. His family hangs out with mine. My family hangs out with his. We meet at Tim Hortons at 2 o'clock in the morning to chat about things. I regularly go to his Friday night fight class. It's a great class. He's an amazing karate teacher. Again, he's a guy who's got a really good balance on the classical and the practical side of martial arts, which is one of the things that I really want to talk to him about tonight. He's got that great balance of, he understands that his karate won't save him from an atom bomb, and he needs to prepare himself in other ways to prepare for that type of a situation. I didn't mention, he's a seventh dan with many different people. He trains with Hanshi Montalvo. He trains with Sensei Legacy. He trains with a super serious dude who I only met once and trained with once, but Tom Payette, who I was super grateful to be able to train with. He's honest, he's fit, he's friendly, he's serious, he's dangerous. I love Kyoshi James Freeze, and that's my introduction for Kyoshi Freeze.
Thank you so much, Sensei Dauphin. Sensei Freeze will be with you in 2 seconds. Everybody watching, you have the button on the bottom, the chat button, and that's how you can send us your questions. Please do, because we thrive on your input. And if your input sucks, we'll never know, because we won't get it, because of Robert Schlumsky, who's also one of the high-ranking black belts in our club. He's awesome. He's behind the scenes right now. The thing that he's done also that I want to alert everybody to is he's separated the audio from our past episodes. And you can now, for example, on my iPhone, I can go to the podcast button, boom, punch, kick, choke, chat, and there it is. He started with the first episode, which is with Sensei Suino, and he's going to start dropping those in. So we can't thank him enough, because one of the things that Sensei Suino was talking about is the sort of growth that we're enjoying with this evening that we're sharing with each other. And that doesn't happen without Robert Schlumsky, and it doesn't happen without those little ideas for innovation. So I'm really grateful for that. You might see us on our phones now and then. Sometimes we're texting each other questions. Sometimes we're hanging out at a coffee shop at 9 at night, and you're hanging out with us. We might swear a little. If you got a problem with that, call your sensei and complain. I think I love saying that every week. I love it. Call your sensei, bitch to them. Cause or hey, write it to Robert and maybe he'll pass it on to us. We're not going to see that one. Wow. My coffee's kicking in tonight, everybody. So without further ado, Sensei Freeze, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. I love asking our guests this. How do you like that introduction from someone I know you love and respect?
Well, I got to tell you that after the introduction, I don't know if I can talk anymore. I feel really honored just to be here. So I can't thank Kyoshi Dauphin enough for inviting me on and being here. So it's going to be, I'm looking very forward to it. So, that introduction is amazing. Thank you.
Look at your notes. Look at your notes, Kyoshi. Remember what we talked about.
I was just about to bring that up, actually.
Okay, all right.
And then I was just waiting for a second. So, as we all know, we have a close mutual friend on this call, Kyoshi Adette Rice. And, it is her birthday today. So, and what's also great about that is that she's now older than me again.
Woo!
So I joke about that every year, but I think because we're all on the call, we should probably sing her happy birthday because we can see
Oh
her.
no!
Yes.
So that's only appropriate.
I'm coming in.
So
There we go. 1, 2, 3. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sensei Rice.
Sorry.
Happy birthday to you.
Ah, love you.
I love and hate you guys all so much.
Happy birthday.
I gotta say, that was the most loving happy birthday and the worst sung happy birthday in the history of happy birthdays.
I
That
warned
was awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
So Sensei Freeze, this is going to prompt my first question, which you know I generally like to start at your youth and how you led into martial arts, but I actually, because of Sensei Rice being there and because of the friendship that the three of you share, is it or is it not true that when COVID first hit, you just said to Sensei Dauphin, if you have any issues with your dojo and maintaining your dojo, we'll figure out a way for you to teach at mine?
Yeah, and you know what? Randy and Adette, and we have this really special bond that's we stick up for each other and we're there for each other for no matter what happens. We'll figure stuff out to make it work, and you know that's our friendship. And you know normally I don't cross those lines, but it's important that we've stuck together and we have this friendship that kind of does that, and it's amazing. So it's one of those rare things. You know, as you get older, you know, when you're young, you want all these friends, but when you get older, you have less friends because they're the important ones. And that's how that turns out more and more all the time. And that's important to me.
Sensei.
Yeah, you know, I want to say that is true, Sean. And another thing that's true and is real life true is in one of our former dojos, Sean, I showed up one day and the owner of that health club was locking the doors. And both Adette and James said, hey, you got space on the floor here for you and all your students. The Legacy Shorin-ryu students are always welcome here. I got a key and an alarm code to Kyoshi Freeze's dojo. I've taught Iaido classes in there and classes after hours. That guy's come to this dojo. If you've changed in the change rooms here, he mudded and taped the drywall here, right? So that just goes to say something about that type of a friendship. True classical martial arts, we don't need to compete with each other. I don't need to compete with Kyoshi Freeze. He's a great teacher. There's enough people. There's 500,000 people in this community. Between the two of us and Adette, we can cover it. It's the rest of the people that can go screw themselves.
So Sensei Freeze, you obviously feel the same, yeah? You're just like, I'm totally going to let a guy who's teaching a similar enough style use my floor because you got what you got and he's got what he's got.
You know what? I've never had an issue sharing and doing things with people and learning and giving them opportunity because they would do the same for me, right? The people that I know, like I know Aubrey's on the call as well, and Sensei Hoover, and I don't know who else that I know directly, but you know, I also know them very well as well. But I know with Adette and Randy, you know, it's never a question, right? It's just here it is, the door is open, use it however you would like, and you know, it's all good, right? And
I love that.
About what I do, I've made really good friends with people. That's way more than just a friendship. So it's a trust factor that you can't you don't get in other things.
I love that. I had to learn that, right? I grew up a little more selfish than that, and so I had to learn it later in life, and I'm lucky I did. But talk to me about that. You grow up. Did you have that vibe then? What brought you to martial arts? And you know, I love asking, what kept you there? You walk in your first dojo. What brings you there? What kept you there?
So I didn't start training until I was 16. We grew up in the country and we were a hockey family. So from the age of like 4 or 5 on, we played hockey. Now some people know that I figure skated for a year, which is an ongoing joke with a few people, but that's okay. It gave me some really good skating skills.
Did you say finger painted?
Figure skating.
Okay, so I want to crack this open for a sec because Are you saying what I think you're saying, that you got the usual jokes, the bro jokes, the because you were figure skating?
Yeah, it happened, and I don't it's one of those things that it was part of how I learned how to play hockey, but you know what, it gave me really good fundamentals. So joke as you know, it also worked balance. So I mean, all that hockey stuff. I played 14 years of hockey competitively after that. So
Well, you're never going to get a joke from me, because what these guys know is I grew up taking ballet for 10 years and I got picked on almost daily in high school. And while I never actually fought because I was too scared, I learned how to go toe to toe with people, at least verbally, and not shrink from the encounter. But I love that we have that in common, because it's a weird world where like you do this thing that's awesome and other people want to come at you for it.
it's been an ongoing joke thing, but it's all good. Like, and that, but I always was intrigued by martial arts. I mean, we grew up in the 80s, all the Chuck Norris films. I mean, in the country, we didn't get a lot of TV, but we got those. So, I mean, that was always my thing that kind of made me want to train. But because we didn't really have a way to, it was either hockey or nothing, because the city at that point was too far away to drive. And honestly, I loved hockey. I still love hockey. So that's never changed. But the training thing started when I was 16. It was a friend of mine training Kung Fu, and I was quite intrigued by what she was doing. I watched her do a couple classes, and then one day I was at our dentist office, and there was a brand new dojo opening up in the building. So I walked down the stairs, and I walked in, and the sensei was there, and he was putting carpet down. So that was my first introduction to martial arts. I was there the next week for a class before they had opened. And that's how I started training. I can remember my first class like it was yesterday. There was like 2 or 3 of us on the floor. It was very uncomfortable, and but I mean, from the moment I walked in that door, I absolutely fell in love with it. So by the time I was a yellow belt, I told my parents that I wanted to have a dojo, and my dad told me I was pretty much effing crazy. So he goes, let's get to the black belt first, and then we'll discuss the next step.
So within 9 months of starting, we'll call it, for your yellow, you basically knew that not only did you want to keep doing this, but that you wanted to do it as a lifestyle, like a profession.
Yeah, it was an immediate love. Everything about it was just awesome. I couldn't express how I felt. I mean, I originally did it between hockey seasons to keep in shape, and then I never went back to hockey. So it kind of it turned me, and I was like, wow. I mean, it was inspiring, but it taught me things, taught me a lot, right? I mean, people, you spar, you get hit. I mean, there was interaction. It was, there was the community. It was good. And you weren't, with different ages and different people who you've never met before. It really opened my mind. So being on a farm and in the country, you're very subject to like a certain, you grow up a certain way, and that's fine. But then when you go to do different things, the dojo is an amazing thing, because it brings all people together from everywhere, and it makes it an amazing experience. And that was part of it that hooked me too. It's like, wow, I get to meet really cool people that I never would have probably met, and expand my life to something that maybe I wouldn't have done. So that was a big start for me.
And did you really, like, I'm not, by the way, saying you didn't, but did you have that flush of feeling from the word go? Was all of that sort of a complete package within you, or was it? Yeah.
I mean, we lived in the country. It was probably about a 25-minute drive. And the odd time when I couldn't get a car, I would bike from my house to the city for New York classes. So it was probably about a 45-minute to an hour bike ride. Now the good part is I'd go to the dojo, and I'd be too tired to drive home after. So I'd always call like Dad. I'm like, hey, you know what? Can you spare a minute, or Mom, and come grab me to get me back home? Because I'm not sure after the class I just got my ass kicked in, I'm going to be able to make it back on the bike safely without dying. So that was before you wore helmets on bikes. So,
so you're biking alone, possibly an hour to class at a young age. Sensei writes, this one's for you. If you can't get to class across town in your car, go fuck yourself. Because she said she wants to put that on a t-shirt. Because again, you're making your way to class. And this was a Goju school you started in?
Yes. Yep. In Waterloo. So it was Goju from day one. So, and it just continued from there. And then, probably about, I'm not even sure when, but I started wanting to expand training. So not until I got my black belt, but I knew that there was also other things to be out there looking at and doing. So I felt that to get a full martial arts career, or not career, but a full experience, you have to go out and experience different things, but you also need to have of base art. And that base art has to give you what you need to go into other things, because if you don't have an understanding of mechanics and technical and stuff like that, the rest really doesn't matter, because it's never going to be good. But once you get that and you go to see, seek out really good instruction, then all of a sudden things start making more sense, and you can kind of add it into what you do, and you kind of see how things are different, and different perspectives are always so important.
Can someone pick up the ball there? I just glitched digitally, so I missed half what you said, Sensei. I'm sorry.
It's just he's talking about basically Ben's what the core is, right? Like solid basics. You need to have solid technique, and you need to be able to work that technique. And if you have that baseline, then you can jump off to lots of other things. You always got that safety blanket to come back to. I think that's what you're saying, James. Like,
yeah, no, that's exactly it. You got to, and going outside of that box is never easy, because you're never sure, right? But you got to, I think it's an important part of training. I think once you understand what you're doing for a period of time, I think it's good to start expanding and learning different things to make your art better.
Hey, James, maybe you should talk about that a little bit, man. Like, I like what you just said, going outside of the box and getting outside of your comfort level.
Well,
any thoughts you have on that, about why that's important for students to do? Why was it important for you to get outside the box and go outside of your comfort level? Like, why would you encourage people to do that if you're going to be telling somebody who had stayed in their own dojo for only like 5 or 10 years and never ventured out? Why would you be telling them to move out and try other things?
Well, so me personally knows that, when I teach anybody, there's only so much things I can teach them physically, right? I can give them, and over time that's going to become, some of the same stuff, which is great. But I think that every other sensei offers other things that are really important, that will offer different perspectives and ideas and build on what you have. I mean, you can bring that back to the dojo. I'm very open. So when I tell my students to go train, I mean, go train, go find stuff, bring it back, or don't, that's fine. But I've maintained so many friends and students by letting them go do their thing and expanding what they do, that it's awesome to see, actually. I actually love that when they go out and do stuff and they find that next step for them, right? Because everybody's path is different. My path is my path, right? And, that'll always be that way. But, somebody else's path should be different, right? They should want to expand. I think people that get stuck in the same place forever don't get that experience. So, and it's different for everybody, right? It doesn't have to, there's no prescribed formula. It's whatever works for you, but I think it needs to go beyond what we do as, that first thing, right? That first thing should be inspiring, but eventually that candle starts to slow down a little bit, and then you got to rekindle it and refire it. And then it's different for everybody, and it's whatever level you're at and how you feel. I think that's how it gets great, right? And that's what makes martial arts so awesome, because anybody that says they've learned it all and they're done is absolute bullshit, right? If you've done that, then you've stepped into that box and you're not gonna step up anymore. So, the day I say that I can't learn something, I don't know, I got Randy and Adet to kick me in the head and go, no, I don't think so, right? So, because it's important that learning curve happens.
Probably Sensei Legacy too. Probably Sensei Legacy he wouldn't kick you in the head, give you a boot in the ass really hard.
Or that punch.
That punch, for fuck's sakes.
I might not survive that though.
So I have a question for you, because I love this and I love that you're talking about it. Did you have a inkling toward another art while you were coming up for your black belt and consciously go, I'm gonna wait till I get my black belt? Or did you hit the black belt level and go, I'm seeing things a little differently now? Was it a conscious choice to stay on a certain path till a certain point?
Okay, this is going to be this is a good, I like this. So not really, like not intentionally. But what I remember was I was at a couple seminars, and it was within what I was doing at the time. And some of the instruction that was going on seemed sideways. It didn't quite connect with what it should be. I'll leave it there. And I thought to myself, there's way more out there than what I'm seeing right now, because this is just fabricated. And once that started happening in my head, I didn't have a direction. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that there was going to be more. And that's kind of what led me down the JKD path with Larry Hartzell for a bit, and Paul Irish. And that took me in that direction for a while, because to me, that was the next step of functionality for me.
Okay, let's crack this open, Sensei, as much as you want. But so you get this tweak, you go, there's something else out there. and you go explore Jeet Kune Do, which, you know, everybody who's been on the show, save for one or maybe two people, have said that's the most influential martial artist in their life is Bruce Lee, or pardon me, in the world, not in their own life, for pretty obvious reasons. You go check out this art. Why did you choose JKD, and what was your experience coming from Goju and going into that?
So it was a whole different world, because the movements that we're used to were not there, but in some essences they weren't there, because they always, you know, they go on, there's no repetition stuff, but everything in every art has repetition. Doesn't matter whether it's a kata or not, whether it's stick work or grappling or whatever it might be, there has to be repetition to learn it, right? And JKD path, it was kind of a fluke, because somebody wanted to do a seminar, and they couldn't get space. So they'd asked me about using the dojo. And because I've always been kind of open to that, I ended up with Larry Hartzell at my dojo. So Larry Hartzell was one of Bruce Lee's original 3 students, and had an amazing experience with him there. Ended up going to train with him in California for a bit. And, you know, I think the thing that tweaked me, and to this day, I think was really cool, was we were sitting in his living room, and we were there and with a friend of mine. And he goes, all right, guys, he says, here's the thing. I have Bruce Lee's original transcripts upstairs. He goes, I'm going to give you 20 minutes with them, and then I'm going to take them away. And he literally brought down these books that were like, you know, this thick, put them in our lap and go, here you go. So we had 20 minutes, and I swear to God, at the 20-minute mark, he walked over, grabbed the books, and put them away. I thought, really? So I got a few things out of those books and notes, but just to see them was like just an amazing thing, to know that, you know, they were Bruce's original transcripts, from what I understand, and I think they were, and he had them. And to this day, I don't know whatever happened to them. I mean, Sifu Hartzell passed away, I think probably closer to 8 or 9 years ago now, and I'm not exactly sure, but you know, it was a really eye-opening experience from beginning to end with him, and he was the one that taught me how to throw a hook punch. We sat in his garage, and I think for 2 hours I couldn't get this thing. I just couldn't figure it out. And he's funny, because he looked at me like he looked at me like I was a little off. Leave it off. But and finally he said something and did it, and it clicked. And to this day, when I throw a hook punch, I think, thank you, Sifu. Right? You taught me that damn punch, and it hits hard. And because I couldn't get it. It was the weirdest thing, because, you know, a lot of times in traditional arts, you don't get the same functionality through a punching that you do some different. Or in my case, it was just it didn't click. And all of a sudden it was like, bam, all right, I got this goddamn thing, but it took me hours to get it. And now it feels like it's just I love that punch now. I hated it then. So that was my thing with Sifu Hartzell. That was an amazing thing.
And is it the kind
Just
of thing
for everybody
yeah.
listening, if you think it's going to take you hours to get something, you should check your ability. Because it took Kyoshi Freeze hours to get it, because he's superior.
But when I left there, I will say it was definitely still not a great technique, but I understood the mechanics of it. And that was and this goes right back to basics, right? If you don't understand mechanics of anything that you do, it really makes no sense. I mean, there's so much really shitty stuff on the internet, watching people do stuff, and it's like, man, you know, this person never took the time to learn it, or didn't care, right? And that's the best thing about, you know, being together with everybody here. This is important to everybody. Everybody learns this stuff because it's built into our system and stuff, and that's why traditional is so important, right? It gives everybody a base, right? And it goes well beyond a base. So,
I have a question for you, James.
Yep.
How far was your car from those manuscripts, and why didn't you grab those things and just beat us out of there to your car?
Well, we were in Marina Del Rey, California, so I had no car. We were at we'd flown in, and we took a cab there. So Sifu Hartzell was also a veteran from Vietnam. So I wasn't not taking anything from his house or trying, because he would have tracked me down and killed me. So he was an amazing guy. I mean, he was a gentle giant, and his teaching was so soft and so soft spoken, and yet his message was so clear in what he did, and the people around him were so with him. It was awesome. So yeah, that was an important thing.
I'm real curious on a technical level, like what the experience of going from the Goju body dynamics into the body dynamics of the JKD was. Like, was that something you had to let go of your notions, or is that something you were totally ready for, hence picking that art?
It was quite a bit different, right? I mean, some mechanics are the same. I mean, you know, your hips and all that stuff, but when you get to the stick, and then doing stuff with what they did with the ground and the movements, it was a lot different, but a lot the same. I had to relax more. Like, you know, I was so rigid that, you know, they're like soften up, and finally that all started, and that's, you know, that is important, you know, in Goju, hard and soft, but until you start applying, right, and really doing it, you know, and I'm probably still rigid to this day, but I'm softer than I used to be, so.
And were you teaching your Goju still at this time, or had you started a club? Because you mentioned the seminar being hosted. So if you don't mind talking a little bit, first off, for Sensei Dauphin, who were the people in that first little while when you started to realize that you were one of the guys? Who were the other guys or ladies or people? And then were you teaching your Goju at this time and supplementing, or did you take a break and take a whole different path?
So I guess at the time I was going through some transition. I opened the club when I was 23. So, and then that first year was just kind of getting going, and I was kind of transitioning at that point and looking for some different stuff to change what I was doing. And that was kind of what pushed me in that direction. I was still teaching Goju. I've never not taught it. But you know, the directions changed along the way. There's been ups and downs to all of that, like with everybody with training. I mean, no matter how great training is, there's always going to be peaks and valleys, right? It's how you control that, and then who you have in your connected networks to help you get through it, right? And you know, and back at that time, it was Kyoshi Rice. I mean, we talked, we did stuff. I mean, when she was on the talk a few weeks ago, she mentioned that, you know, at one time we weren't that close of friends, and we weren't, and then we we sat and we had a long talk, and ever since we bonded, and that moment forward has been like one of the best friendships you could ask for, right? Because it's direct and it's honest, right? There's the things that we can talk about are just open and honest, and that's, you know, you can't ask for much more than that in a friendship. And she runs an amazing business, so if I have questions, I'll ask.
Also, to people watching, like if you're in your 20s, like to be 23 and opening your own school that still exists to this day, that's phenomenal to me, because that's such a responsibility to take on, and to have the humility to ask other people for help during that time. The other thing I want to ask you about your 20s. So you're down in Marina Del Rey in your 20s. Do you have any non-martial arts memories of that time in that city? Because I fucking love that area of LA.
So it was a good trip.
Right?
Angela,
good down there.
You can't talk about those memories. Angela's just sitting like 3 feet off of the camera staring at him right now. Like, he's not going to talk about those memories.
You know what? We went to a couple clubs the one night. It was a cool experience. But we were only there for literally 3 days. We flew in to train. We did our thing, and then when we were done with Sifu Hartsao, we had one night to ourselves. We were out till 4 a.m. We hit our hotel room to pack our bag. We rented a BMW little Z3. We dropped that off at like 4:30 in the morning. We got to the airport. And it was all 2 weeks after 9/11. So the airport was a complete shit show because there was armed people everywhere. And we laid at the airport for 2 hours before they'd even let us in. So it was a great night, but it was a rough morning. I don't remember taking off from the airport. So it was a good time. Like, we were literally there for a couple of days. We went to Gold's Gym, saw some of the biggest guys I've ever seen in my life, and I'm just in awe, going, how is that even possible to lift that weight off there? So that was a moment. I thought, wow, but the guy couldn't walk. It was, but yeah, beyond that, it was really about the training.
So Sensei
You
Dauphin,
just have to move around, James. You just have to move around until he takes his first deep breath, and then you got him. Right? When you get him moving around, as soon as you see him go, then you know that's it. It's your time after that.
Well, then the muscle structure is so nice, you can see which ligament and knee you're going to pop at the same time.
It's your anatomy chart of pressure points.
Yeah, you know, they're big up top, but down below, it's all the same. So.
Well, when I was living down there, Sensei Dauphin, Sensei Legacy, and Sensei McLaren came to visit, and then I had to do some work one day, and they went out to Muscle Beach, which to the people watching, Venice Beach and Marina del Rey, there's no actual like border. They just, one becomes the other, and I know you enjoyed that. Sensei
did.
Suino, how did you find? We didn't talk about this as much on yours, but you know, you do karate with us, and you've obviously got different styles. Just the body mechanics of becoming almost a master or a master in one style and then totally shifting gears. How do you find that?
It depends on the art. It's been really different and odd. And I maybe James, you can relate to this, but depending on what I've taken up, I've found it very difficult or very easy. Judo was my first martial art, and I was young enough that it just, took to it like a duck to water. My first karate instruction was very systematic. I tried to learn Aikido, and that was miserable. Iaido was amazing, but I've told that story, and the simple reason was I was so in awe of my sensei. I couldn't do anything but just exactly what he asked. So I don't know, Sensei Freeze, did you experience that in your Jeet Kune Do training, or what was more different? What was?
Yeah, I found that some things were easier to grasp than others, and I know that in some different things I've done as well, like some things just didn't stick. Like it just didn't fit what I am or who I am, and I let it go because it just didn't flow into where I was heading next. So yeah, that's a great way to kind of analyze it, because not everything fits, and I think it's different for everybody, right? And then it goes back to how your art's going to be built and kind of how you feel, but more importantly, there's some lights.
I told her to turn the lights on, James. I texted her and said, "Turn the lights on. We can't see James anymore."
Sorry. Now you get the bald head and the shiny. So.
That's interesting, Sensei Freeze, because one of the things, and Hanshi Legacy, you can totally correct me, or we can talk about this next week, but that punch you were talking about came through a Chinese lineage, through his sensei Benny Allen, learning in Chinatown at the places there how to hit the way I'm sure your JKD was having you hit. And that all adds up, right, Hanshi Legacy?
I would say yes, but also Bruce Lee believed a lot in linear striking. If you read Tao Jeet Kune Do, he actually admits that linear striking is the best way. Straight line striking. It's harder to stop.
I just love all this blending. I love all this blending. How did you end up then meeting Sensei Montalvo, Hanshi Montalvo, and what brought you back to the Goju fold that way?
So that was a roundabout little bit there for me. But to shorten up the story, to kind of keep it, we met the same weekend as I met Kyoshi Dafuna, and well, I knew Sensei Rice at that point, obviously, but we met in Niagara Falls, and that was how we were introduced. And from there, it was like this moment where you meet somebody and this little light goes off and you're like, holy this is amazing, right? And it was from that point forward, Kyoshi Rice and I immediately attached ourselves to him, and he was just such a heartwarming, giving person. But he privately graded us, and I'll never forget when he front kicked me and dropped me flat on my ass. And I jumped back up, and I was like, wow, didn't see that coming anywhere. And the respect I have for him is amazing. But I mean, it was a moment that when we met, it just felt right, and it's felt right ever since. Right? I can call him anytime, and he'll take the time to talk. Right? So you don't get that with everybody. I mean, the people that you look up to that are your instructors or mentors, they're there for you when you need them, right? And that's why they are who they are. That's why they're your mentor or instructors, because they take the time, and it's a reciprocal relationship in the sense that you can talk back and forth and be real people.
James, I think when it comes to Hanshi Montalvo, one of the things that I always admire about you and him is both your love of practical and classical martial arts. You guys follow the full gamut from traditional Okinawan, like all the way, like you guys seem like, you know, that to me seems like a match made in heaven, the two of you, what I know of you and what I know of him. How about the other things outside of classical karate and your experiences with Hanshi Montalvo when it comes to force multipliers and the more practical side of your training?
Yeah, so that's another thing that we have a great connection on, is the fact that you know, his law enforcement side totally intrigues me. I love all that. I love what he did and what he does. But the thing that really got me on that as well was I got invited to one of his ATF camps in Florida, and I went there for the week, and it was an amazing week because I got invited into a group of people that most people would never see. Got to train with them and be around them and just see how great these people were. I mean, the way they were, were professionally, but the way we trained together, the way they sacrificed me all the time to go in first into a room so I would die because I was a Canadian. But it was an amazing week with them. I learned so much, right? And that was, and that's when I saw the practical side of things and so much more. Not just the physical side, but the mental side and how it all kind of connects. And, the world of, self-defense, or the world of, protecting yourself is a whole different thing because it's real, right? And when shit goes bad, it goes bad quick. Violence doesn't care about you, right? And you can have all the opinions you want, but when it goes bad and somebody wants something from you, wants to kill you, they don't care about you, right? You're just in their way, and they're going to take what they're going to get. So there were some eye-opening things that happened. I'm like, wow, there's different methodologies to do all this, and it was a fit for my training.
This is awesome because one of the things that I'm always asking, or we're always asking our masters on the calls, is I'm so intrigued as well by the real world application. So first off, I'm going to ask a question from one of the people, but I'm also then going to blend it into one of my own questions. So before we get off of what we were just talking about, Cristiano Landolt asked, when you were training two styles, the JKD and the Goju, did you find you had to keep them separate, or did you find that the one just supplemented the other? Was that part of your thinking or anything conscious?
I kind of kept them separate because they did kind of have two different ideologies. But I mean, it really does blend. I mean, no matter what, I mean, it works right into the fighting stuff, the movement. I mean, it's all very practical, and I think it's fine. I mean, martial arts are martial arts, right? You can take any bunch of different techniques and, just different ideas and opinions and styles. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong to blend. And for me, I don't think there was ever a real problem separating the two because they were kind of two different things. But when it comes to fighting and stuff, it's fighting, right? You're going to apply it. I mean, I don't use straight punches to come in to fight with, but I mean, I know that when it's happening, I can see it happening and have ideas of how to move or do something different with that. So, and it doesn't always work. I mean, I get hit a lot, but it's always fun.
I'll quote Sensei Copeland. It's not if you get hit, it's when you get hit. You're going to get hit often. And 100%. He's on the call. He's on the call, James. Sensei Copeland is on the call watching. So
it's so true. And it also changes how hard you get hit, right? Your response is always different from that, right? So it's like, oh, wow, I'm awake now, or oh, wait, I'm waking up. So I think we lost Sean.
Oh, we did. Okay, well, that's okay. Before he comes back then, I wanted to talk more about the practical side anyway, James. This is something that Sensei Legacy once said to me about Sokan Matsumura, who actually, whether you do Goju or whatever style you do, Matsumura, Kamiyo Higashiona, Miyagi Chojin, Goju, Matsumura, Shorin-ryu. But Matsumura carried a sword, which Sensei Suino would like, and he did Jigen Ryu school of, and Sensei Legacy once said to me, don't kid yourself. If you had a battle with Matsumura, he'd pull his sword out and he'd cut your head off. He wouldn't take his sword out and fight you with karate.
Right.
Right. And so I guess my question to you, or the thing that I want to ask you about, is force multipliers, being on the sidewalk, using your karate. How do you feel it works for you? In what situations? And what are the situations where you'd be looking for something else? And what would you be looking for if you could? And I want you to feel comfortable, James. So I know it's a politically charged climate right now, but we're all martial artists. So I hope you want to talk about things, but you talk about it however you want.
So yeah, no, I think that, so we go into the training. I look at what I've done with Hanshi Montalvo, and then we can brush on what I've done with Tom as well, because those are what I would consider the practical side of being in those situations, right? And not to take anything, because I mean all the things we have in karate are so important, because it gives you that level to hit and to kick and to punch. But I mean, in today's world, I mean, there's so much to do with liability and stuff like that. And then you got to be able to assess, levels of threat as to how they're happening. And then you have to have a proper response to that. And, traditional martial arts, as great as they are, they don't always teach that because it's not part of the curriculum. And I didn't learn that till I got outside of that. And I'm glad I have, because I'd be kidding myself if I think that all the stuff I have in just Goju would be what I would need on the street without going to jail right after. I mean, you can't just punch people in the head anymore and elbow them and knee them. You got to have other systems in place that will help modify that. And that, you can get that from jiu-jitsu, whatever. Again, this goes back to whatever your comfort level is for training outside of your box, so to speak. But it's got to be practical in today's world. It's got to be functional. It's got to work. Like if you got to take it to a high level, you don't got time to think about what technique you're going to do. You got to use something that's going to be quick and efficient to the point, because if it takes too long and doesn't work, you're done, right? And it's all about assessment.
Right. How about Tom Payette? Let's go into him a little bit, James, because he's a guy who I was instantly impressed with. I'm really grateful that you let me have the chance to train with him. Him and Joe, top notch. I know they hold you in their fold as like one of theirs. How'd you meet that guy? What is it that you admire about him? He's the real life. If you don't know who Tom Payette is, in my opinion, he's the real life Liam Neeson from Taken. He's the real guy, right? He's the guy that they built that character on.
So yeah, so Tom, so Mr. Patiri, I met him. I think we've been with him for 18 years. So it was really weird. I saw him on the cover of a magazine. I thought, I gotta go see about certifying in this. This is going in this outside the box thing, right? And it was expensive. Like at the time, I think the certifications were like close to 3,000 American, right? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is justifiable. So me and a friend took this course. And the first day we went down, we left, and I shook my head going, what did we get ourselves into? This makes absolutely no sense. It's just complete bullshit. And then by day 2 and day 3, I got to see how the progression was working and to what he was trying to accomplish. And we didn't meet Tom that week until the final testing day. And when he walked in the room, I almost crawled into a corner and died, because I saw this guy come in thinking, what is going on? And I couldn't even approach him the first couple of times we'd met him, right? He was a person that had that kind of thing about him that just says, you know what, I've got this figured out. And, his background and training and what he's done for his lifestyle, it kind of predicts that. But, the course got better each day. And by the time we graduated at the end of the week, because I think it was a 5-day certification at that time, it was an amazing week. Like we left there and I went, wow. And then that just started me with Tom. So I went back every year for the cert, and then I started going to his bodyguarding camps in Maryland. And those were another level that I can't really explain, because I'd be there for a week. They were a 7-day camp. And by the time I left, when I came home, I'd have to go for like a 2-hour walk just to decompress from the camp, because a bird would fly past me and I want to grab it over there and kill it. So it was just an experience that it just lit everything in you on fire. And just made you a better person. But it also, it just really, because it wasn't all about the physical. It was the mental thing that they really were able to work and take it to a different level. And I got to tell you, the first year I did the camp, I had a horrible year. Our team failed. We all died in the end. It was an absolute shit week. And I came home, I was sick, and I thought, wow. So I promised myself I'd go back, because I don't like to fail at anything. And, my team, we weren't good, and it was a bunch of factors. And I went back the following year, and I had the best 7 days that I've ever had. I think, Chuck went with me, and Chuck O'Neill, Sifu O'Neill. And we went down, and we had a blast. We had an amazing week, and that was the one that really got me, because I learn so much. And every time I'm with Tom, I learn. Like there's never a time when I don't, because he always has a different perspective, and he's always changing things to be up to date with what's going on, right? A lot of it's liability based, but then he's got the level above that, which goes well beyond liability. It will definitely keep you safe, but you know, you're taking a different road at that point. So,
so listen, Jay, Sean's back, so his internet came back. So I'm gonna pass it back to him I was happy to be the backup host for the last 7 minutes or so, but believe it or not, we're an hour in, right? Like, so we've already been chatting for an hour, and there's a super important topic that you wanted to talk about, which I think it's going to be very impactful to everybody. You know, it goes along with what Adet said about, you know, well, if you can't drive your car to class over 15 minutes, fuck you, which is kind of like, what excuse is enough for you not to train, right? Like, what excuse is enough for you not to get to class? What is the reason that you're actually going to put forward and say, I can't make it tonight. I ate too much dinner. I don't have the money tonight. You know, I hurt my toe when I was fighting yesterday. I worked today and I'm really tired. How about you talk a little bit, James, about some of the struggles you've had to face, and when you figured out in your life that you're going to have to face those struggles? And let's just name what that main struggle is, the elephant in the room here.
Yeah, I just go right into it.
Yeah, get
okay.
into it, man.
Cool. All right. So, and so, some people in this call know, some people won't. But so at the age of, I think, 3 months, I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. So for those who don't know that, it's a genetic disease that eventually will, you know, cut things shorter than most people's lives. Okay, that's the short end of it. So living with that all my life, people ask me what it's like. I don't know what it's like not to have it, so I can't answer that question effectively. I just know that I make every day happen. But I think for me, there was a bunch of changes as I grew up. I think around the age of like 10 or 11, I think I realized that, you know, things could be a little different. Like I could actually die at a young age. So I think at that time, the average age was, I think, 17 or 18. So, and I think I realized that Mom and I were sitting in the kitchen talking, and I think I was on the kitchen counter. I don't exactly remember what we were talking about, but it kind of hit me. I'm like, wow, okay, I get it now. Okay, but then it didn't hit it in a way like it's like, oh, this is a great thing. You know, it hit me in a way like, oh, this is pretty shitty. So I went through a little bit of a phase where I was like, you know, I was never depressed. I wouldn't say it like that, but it was just a different thinking path. And then one day I was on a construction site working, and I worked with this guy, and I've been able to thank him for this a few years ago, which is amazing. And he said to me, he goes, you know, you're awfully grumpy in the morning. And I said, yeah. I said, it's kind of, you know, just the way things are. He goes, well, you know what? And he didn't know that I had CF or anything like that. He just said to me, he goes, well, you know what? In your life, you got two choices to make every day. You can be a complete, you know, pain in the ass, hate life, whatever you want to be, or you can get up and you can just get up and enjoy it, right? And at that point, I thought, you know what? He makes a bit of sense there. So I thought at that point that no matter what happens to me, whether I have short-term, long-term, or whatever term, I'm just gonna blow through this thing and make it happen. So anybody that knows me knows I don't really have a lot of holdbacks, and I just live to do, right? So if somebody says do something, I'm pretty much game for it. I've slowed down the last couple of years because I'm a bit older, but I mean, you know, I'm still game for pretty much everything, or anything. But you know, I think that too, that, you know, I've got great family. I've got great friends. I mean, the people on this call that I know all know that. We're close, and you know, we all stick by each other. But I mean, those positives in my life have been great. So it's you know, it's one of those things that, yeah, I mean, I have it, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to worry about it. It's going to do what it's going to do. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that would be way off worse than I've ever been. I've been super fortunate. The martial arts has kept me healthy for sure. And just the positive nature of being around people that are positive. I mean, how do you not feel good around that? So, you know, martial arts is an amazing thing. I mean, if more people would just, you know, wake up and find great places to train, you know, it does really good things.
It's funny because I feel like you and Sensei Suino have that shared thing. Sensei Suino has something he didn't like talking about for a long time, but he has also started to talk about recently, which is he was the the first victim of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. And he always claims that that was the moment when he realized he was mortal, right? And you're talking about this now in this moment, James. You know, I'd be curious to know about a dark moment when you dragged your ass to the dojo, like how you were feeling in that moment. Was CF kicking in? You felt like you couldn't breathe. You were coughing like crazy. And you just knew you had to get to the dojo. You had to get there no matter what. What was that like?
So I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a dark moment of dragging my ass there. I just know that if I have more of a cough or something, I will drag my ass there to train, right? And I might, like, you know, cough half a lung out, and there'll be nobody else there, so it doesn't really matter. But you know, I will push through a workout to the point where I'm probably almost coughing blood, just to make sure I've got through the workout, and then I'll feel better after that. My mental game has to always be doing something. Like, I don't sit around well, and you know, the training part's important to me, you know, for a bunch of different reasons. But I mean, yeah, I don't know that I've ever gone through a time where I didn't want to train or didn't drag myself there to do it. And I've been fortunate, you know, and having the club too is great because I can go there when I need that to happen, right? It's a great release on so many different levels.
Well, I appreciate you talking about it, James. The one thing I want to just say to you is I got 2 lungs and I only really need 1. So if you ever need one of mine, you can just ask and I'll give it to you.
Wow, thank you.
You know he means that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, wow.
I appreciate that, Sensei Freeze, and yeah, thanks, Sensei Dauphin. There's a reason we do this together, and the reason we band together, because when someone's internet craps out, someone else picks up the. I mean that metaphorically, like when one of us is down, and someone just goes, "Yeah, I'll keep going with this till you're back."
You know, normally James, he would be complaining about this, but the fact that we were talking about CF, your CF, meant that his internet crapping out wasn't as big a deal, right? Like,
True. Well, one of the things I love you said is that I don't know what the other person's life, like there's no James's life without it that you can compare to. And to me, that's such a powerful statement, because I think, you know, Sensei Dauphin always talks about there's reasons and there's excuses. And I think when people go to excuses, there's a mindset of going, well, that other person's got it better than me. We have no idea what that other person's got. We literally will never know another person's experience. So to just go, well, this is my deal. I really thought that was powerful, and I appreciate it.
And I think too that, you know, going back to, you know, opening the dojo and why and all that stuff was knowing that I had to be on some kind of health thing for life. Like, I don't think I would have done well in an office setting for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, you know, possibly my ADHD would have taken me out there in half a second because, you know, I see squirrel and I run the other way. But I mean, you know, I need to be doing something physical all the time because it keeps me active. But I mean, I absolutely love the teaching and the training and all that stuff because it's so interactive, right? So it keeps me moving.
So I don't want to make this unduly cinematic, but I do think this way a bit. But you're going alone to your dojo at times when your lungs feel fucking dreadful. You start your, whatever your program is that day. And there's times where you're just alone in the middle of this space. You walk down the stairs and you're hacking up half your lung. And then you just go keep training a little bit. That's happened more than once.
Make it sound a little bit worse than it is, but yeah.
No, that's true.
But it does happen. It does. Yeah. I mean, there is times when I'll go in and I will cough a lot and I will just continue to work out until the coughing stuff is done. So, yeah. I mean, I know Angie's witnessed me doing it. And very few other people ever have. It's one thing I don't really ever talk about because it's not, well, I mean, it's who I am, but it's not who I am. I don't want to dwell on that stuff because I don't want to talk about it. It is what it is. I mean, it doesn't change. So I'm going to go train. I'm going to do my thing. If I fall over, I'll get back. If I don't, oh well, right. It's, you know, it's where I want to be and it's what I like to do. Right. It's important.
I really appreciate that. I'm going to just throw a challenge. Fuck it. I'm in no position to. I'm the lowest ranked guy in this call. But if you're watching this call and it's been a long time since you've gone and trained alone to the point where you didn't think you could continue, maybe try that tomorrow. Maybe go out tomorrow until you might vomit, until you can't run up that hill anymore, until your fists are sore from hitting the bag. I mean, if you haven't done that in a while, if this doesn't motivate you to, I don't know what is going to motivate you to.
Challenge accepted.
I'll accept my own challenge. So, Sensei Freeze, I dropped out for a sec. So if you've covered this territory, but the one question I was really curious about when you were answering Christiana's and I lost my signal is, I'm always curious when people go do that type of tactical training and you're looking at more of the real world implications of what a martial deadly art actually is and what it actually was developed for and what it's there for. When you then go back and you're teaching kata and you're taking something that you've been doing since 20 years earlier, how fundamentally does that change how you're teaching it or doing it?
Okay, so I don't relate the kata to what I do in tactics. To me, it's two different things. I mean, kata gives us a lot of stuff. For me, from a tactical standpoint, it doesn't give me the training that I need for what I think would work in that sense. I mean, I love traditional training, and I don't want to say anything bad about it because there's nothing bad to say about it. But I know that from the tactical side of doing this stuff, when I'm at ITC training camp with Tom and Joe and all those guys, when we're doing, range training, gun training, I mean, when some guy trips you when you got a loaded gun in your hand and they're kicking dirt in your face and they're telling you which target to hit, and then getting back up and repeating it and not fucking up during that time, it's a stressful moment, right? And at the end of that camp, we're doing live training drills, live shooting drills with real people, and you have people in front of you while you're doing a live fire over their shoulder. So I don't know any kata that's going to give you that kind of experience, unless you're doing it from a training standpoint. So I don't know that they relate in my mind. Maybe somebody else can, but to me, it's a different animal. So when I teach that stuff separately because I have a whole different kind of set of or different way to teach it than I would do for a traditional aspect. So I just think to me they're two separate things, and I don't mean anything bad by that, but I mean that's how I feel about it, and I couldn't blend the two. When I'm doing stuff with Tom and we're doing like high level takeouts or stuff like that, that is not coming from the kata end, right? But I can tell you that all the training from the traditional side initially gives you the mindset to be able to do this stuff, to step into that zone and go, I got this, I can do it because I've done it before, I've been down this road, but it's just a different way. And now you're going to take that traditional side and you're going to apply it. And it's like, holy shit, this just went to a different level. And I can thank all my previous people that I'm with and with today that got me to that level mentally, right? And the physical side is just what you work on.
Sensei Suino, I know you work with the hunting and the weapons. How do you feel about those ideas? I see you nodding along.
Yeah, it's really interesting. In many ways, the two exist apart, but when it comes to really specific transferable skills, I think the traditional training, the highly disciplined training, building structure, building certain movements, right? I always say to people who come in, they want to, the guy comes to the dojo the first day and starts telling me how he's going to be a UFC champion in 3 years. I always say, if you train really hard, really fast, and with a lot of muscle, you're going to get as exactly good as you are. In 3 weeks, your growth curve will stop. But if you take a step back and start working on your skills, and that's one of the things I think that traditional martial arts does beautifully, right? It builds structure. It gives you kinesthetic awareness. It gives you spatial awareness. It trains your mind in the same way it trains your body. And then, right, over the long term, I think that what it does is it gives you access to a much higher level than you're naturally gifted with. And I've seen the crossover from things like the structure and poise in Iaido to pistol shooting, for example. Specificity of movement in Iaido across into Judo. So yeah, I could talk about this for a long time, and it's not my night, but I think they don't transfer immediately. It's not a tactical transfer. What it is traditional martial arts is a great way to build mental and physical skill sets to make your tactical stuff better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Sensei Dofa, I know you go to the range as well. Or sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, because we're all riffing on this, for me, the tactical side of traditional martial arts, and we mentioned the word kata, right? Like we said, kata. When you go in a room by yourself and you're doing kata, the tactical side in my mind is your mind, right? Like that's the tactical side is your mind. But the thing that makes kata tactical, it's just a one-word answer. It's called bunkai. right? And it's the way you train that bunkai that makes sure I don't say that kata is going to allow you to overcome a sword, a knife, an edged weapon, or a force multiplier like a semi-automatic firearm. But I think it'll give you a lot more of a chance than somebody who never did anything. Somebody who just sits on the sofa and eats potato chips is not going to be as well off as somebody who trains kata properly with bunkai. I'm open to being challenged on that. James, you can challenge me on that, but that's my opinion on it.
You know what? No, and maybe I mean to reweigh what I said a bit, because all the traditional training in my past got me to where I'm at because of those things that you guys both just said. And I could see that because when I've done courses with Tom or some people that have never had any traditional background training, the experience that they have and the training and that they have is usually they're horrible to work with, because they don't have any of that mindset or stuff. So yeah, I guess what I was trying to say was that all the stuff I've done in the past, it definitely is important for what I went to. In my mind, it's kind of too different, but I mean, from the mental standpoint, definitely not. Like, so exactly like you said, Randy, that it's, you know, that mental, it's there for all of it, right? That's the traditional part that we all get, right? And then transfers through for sure. So, yeah.
Sean, I don't know what you got on the go for more questions because we don't really work this out ahead, but everybody on this call is a UFC fan. And some of us are huge GSP fans. Like, it's a good name for us to mention on the show, actually, is GSP. So I'm curious to know, James, there's a couple of people I wrote down on the paper here. GSP versus Conor McGregor. How do you see that fight going? Sensei Suino, I want to hear how you see that fight going. Sean Benson, I want to see how you, and Sensei Legacy, I want to hear how you guys think Conor McGregor fares against George St. Pierre at a catch weight. Let's say GSP's coming down in weight. You're up first, James. What do you see happening in that fight?
You know what? Once you take all the flash away from Conor and you look at all the technical skill of who GSP is, I'm going to give that fight to GSP. I mean, when GSP's on his game and he's there, Conor's not going to touch him. And you can dance around all you want. He's going to do the things that GSP always does. He's going to shut him down. And if I don't say that, my wife will disown me beside me. But I mean, that's.
Sensei Suino, you're a grappler. How do you see that going?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, you know, we all know that one punch can change everything in an instant in a UFC match. But if I'm taking them based on skill, I love watching Conor McGregor. But the reason I love watching him is because he's got the sand. You know, he is. I mean, you know, he's good in many ways, a good striker. I don't think he's incredible on the ground. But GSP is the guy that, you know, if I get reincarnated as a UFC fighter, I want to just follow his path because especially that transition from the Matt Hughes fight to, you know, when he decided to change who he was, right, physically, mentally, discipline-wise, it was one of the most dramatic transformations you've ever seen in a fighter anywhere on the planet before or since. So I take GSP because I just think his game is complete.
Okay. Sensei Legacy, Benson, you're going to be last. Sensei Legacy, who do you got in that fight, GSP or Conor McGregor?
Well, just to cut all the other stuff out, I would have to agree, GSP. But I really like Conor. I really like him. I really like him. He's just a badass. And you know, he can knock you out in 13 seconds.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. Benson, who you got, man, and why?
Well, I love this question. I'll talk about this all day. I'll keep it brief, though. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's not even a contest. GSP just outclasses him on every level. And a bit of what Sensei Suino said, that guy just gets better for every opponent while never losing the skills he got for the previous opponent. The other thing is GSP has 8 title defenses. Conor McGregor has fucking donut. Conor McGregor had a great run up. He had a great hype machine, which was him. He got his titles. He never fucking defended them. He went and made his money. Good for him. But I had like 400 people like a tweet of mine where I just was like, how at Conor, like, how are you even talking about yourself as GOAT status? Like, you fought like 12 times, like, and you've never defended. I'm glad you got your 100 million. You made a great career choice. But if I got to be on the next CSI for the next 14-year run of it, nobody would say I had a bad career, but nobody would call me one of the greats. It'd be a good choice for me, but I would never get the Oscar. And that's what Conor chose. He chose another path. GSP is the fucking GOAT in my books. So I'll go down on that hill.
I'm going to challenge on that because, James, here's the next match. Okay, here's the next match.
Good question.
Now GSP has to come up and weight, and GSP at his prime has to fight Anderson Silva at his prime. Who you got, James? Same order. We're going James, then we're going Setsasuino, Setsu Legacy, and Benson. And for the record, I have GSP over McGregor like all day, every day, like no problem. Like,
all right, so this is that would be a very interesting fight. But I'm gonna stand by the GSP thing just by his training methodologies. That he will adapt and learn and train, and he'll meet that fighter where he needs to do what he needs to. I mean, anybody can take that one punch and it can be over. But I think in all fairness, GSP Prime. I mean, he's adaptable. He trains and learns and does what he needs to do. I'll keep it short. GSP.
Setsasuino?
I'm going to be a contrarian on this one, man. Anderson Silva in his prime had this magic striking that was just sick. Not now, where you see the decline of his career, and it takes some shine off. But I was around when he was at his prime, and it was just sick. And the length that he has. I take GSP all day long in terms of training methodology, in terms of completeness. That's the guy I'm going to follow. But I just think Anderson Silva was born with this magic, that he had up until till he hit his apex. So just for fun, I'm going to pick him on this one.
So it's the legacy.
I'll go with the French guy. Yeah, he's like he'd be the poster boy for anything. GSP, right? For martial arts or for MMA. Somebody would have to come in and beat him out before you could say that you would think somebody would.
All right, Benson.
Fuck, I hate that I'm about to say this, but I bet my money on GSP, and I think I might lose it. I think it's a size thing. I think their skills are equal, different skills, but I think when you've got equal skills, the guy who's a little bigger is going to get the extra weight on the clinch, or he's going to get the extra, interesting maneuver on the reach. He's going to keep GSP away a little. So I fucking hate to say it because GSP's my GOAT. But I think Silva takes the fight, and I happily lose the money betting on my man.
Yeah, I agree with you. So for me, I'm betting on GSP. He's my favorite of all time. But when you say, I think I disagree with you on the size, because I think GSP just walking around at regular weight is probably similar to Anderson Silva. I don't think the strength is that much different. I just think Silva's a superior striker, all around superior striker. He's a legit BJJ black belt on the ground. He can submit you. And he nullified some of the best big wrestlers on the planet. When you think about, Channel Sonnen, who's a collegiate wrestler, and Hendo, who's a multi-time Olympian, he made those guys look silly as wrestlers. So I'd lose money, but I'd be screaming for the French guy because he's the guy I want to win, but I'm not sure he'd beat Anderson Silva.
I'm not going to I'm not going to get any
What's
sleep
that,
tonight.
Sensei?
I'm not going to get any sleep tonight because I'm going to go back and watch a bunch of the old Anderson
Well,
Silva fights now.
This is the problem, right? Because we never got to see the GSP who trained for Silva. Like that's the one X factor that you said, Sensei Suino. Like he did train per opponent. He did respond per opponent. He did what it took to beat each opponent. Even if he lost, he'd come back and figure out the puzzle. So we never got to know what he would do with that matchup. So, but I still go with my answer, and it's going to keep me up at night too. Were you talking about this, Sensei Ofa? Were you thinking it might be time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting. I mean, I got notes here too, and I know James can talk we could be talking, but we just have to have him back to talk more.
We'll have you back to talk more, but let's chat a little further. We've never shut this thing down at an hour and a half, and we'll call my internet blip. It's my fault. We're going to go a little long. Sensei Freeze, we've got our 10 questions that we're asking all our guests. Next week, by the way, we're going to hear 10 new questions. You only get those if you're on twice because, we'll get to why after. Sensei Freeze, what's the most effective move in your martial arts arsenal?
Probably my spinning sidekick. If I was to pick that, you guys,
That's awesome.
that may have been the audience in the background.
Actually, I can say as the guy who's fought him, he's landed that technique on me repeatedly. He has a good spinning sidekick.
I learned that when I was I think a yell about I wasn't supposed to, and I've never stopped doing it. It's my favorite thing of all time.
Who is the most influential martial artist in your life?
Oh, that is a really tough question because there's been a bunch, but I mean, I think that, Hanchi Montalvo, Hanchi Legacy, Kyoshi Delphine, Kyoshi Rice. I mean, Aubrey's on. I mean, there's so many that are influential because they all mean so much to me, and they're all different. Like I mean, I could Tom Patiri, right? Different again, but I mean, I'm influenced by so many people that are important because they all have different perspectives and offer me so much, and we all have this kind of tight thing, which is amazing. So it's not a one-person answer for me.
Who do you believe is the most influential martial artist of all time, and why?
I've thought about this today. I know the question's coming. Honestly, it goes right to Bruce Lee. For me, because I mean, he really did, push things forward in a direction. And after seeing his manuscripts and stuff and things like that, I mean, there's no question in my mind, the things that he did at that time were so far ahead of what was going on. If he could see martial arts today, he'd shake his head and go, wow. Like, I mean, it's come so far.
What excites you most about the next 5 years of your training?
Oh, you know what? Just training, being with the people I love to be with, and just keep growing, right? There's no limit to the growing part, and it might be a different kind of growth, but whatever that growth is going to be, I'm excited for it. It's that challenge part that I love. It's gonna be, and it's gonna be there. And we're just gonna do it.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive?
I always think about this, and I think, you're a bit early. Maybe wait a little bit longer. I think that, with the CF thing, thinking, I keep pushing that, every time it gets older, I'm thinking, I gain a little bit more time and thinking, yeah, he just keeps pushing the time back more because it's just not that place yet. I'm not ready to be there. And he'll say that to me, I'm pretty sure, at that time. So.
What martial artist, living or dead, famous or not, would you like to fight most and why?
You know what? I think it'd be Chuck Norris. Just cause I don't know. I grew up and I watched all the movies, and I mean, there'd be times in the backyard, my brother and I would go out and we would put milk bags on our hands, like just the milk bag with an elastic, and then we beat the shit out of each other. That's what you did in the country, right? And that was directly after either a Chuck Norris or a Rocky, right? It was A or B. Like, I mean, Rocky was for sure, right? And Chuck Norris probably with some kicking and stuff as well. So yeah, definitely Chuck Norris.
What in the
to-
fuck did you think? What in the fuck did you think the milk bags were going to do? Like, what did you think was going on there?
It kept the blood in your hand, right? So you couldn't see the blood part. So it was a much cleaner, smoother hit than a fist.
If everyone in the world could have one benefit that you've derived most from martial arts, what would it be?
It'd be health. The health of where I'm at. 100%. I mean, it's given me confidence and all those other things that the arts do. But I mean, for me, health has been key, right? It keeps me where I'm at.
And by the way, I'm interjecting a question. I want to go back because I think we're about the same age. What Chuck Norris movies made you a Chuck Norris guy?
I think it was like was it The Octagon? Was definitely one of them. And then there was all the Braddock movies, right? So I can't think of the name of them right off the Missing in Action.
Missing in Action, yeah.
More so just the first one.
Lone Wolf McQueen, man. Lone Wolf all the way. Lone Wolf.
But then he also did the one where he took out the cartel, and I can't think of the name of it. And I still
Delta
watch that
Force?
one. What's that?
Delta Force?
Delta Force, yeah. Delta Force 2. I love those because I mean there's that one spot in that movie where he beat the shit out of the Green Berets in that circle. And I just love that part of the movie, and I can see it like it's in my head like all the time.
My girlfriend is French from France, and the other day we pulled up some Walker Texas Ranger to watch because she grew up and it was her favorite show, and she just kept looking at me going, "Wait, is that his voice?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, it was dubbed in French when I was a kid." I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "But his voice is supposed to be so much deeper and cooler." I was like, "No, that's Chuck's voice." And like literally today we're driving, and out of the blue she's like, "I can't stop thinking about how that's Chuck Norris's real voice." What's your greatest achievement and what's your greatest regret?
Oh man, you know what? I think the greatest achievement. I don't. You know what? I don't know that don't know that I'm there yet.
Mm.
Right. I think there's more to do. I don't know that I have made that point yet. To be honest, and to this point though, it's the friends that I've gained and through the training and that stuff. I mean that to myself is more important than anything. I mean to be able to share and do things is important, but it means a lot to me. The biggest what's the second part of that?
Regret.
I don't think I have any. Like I've trained how I've wanted to train. I've done what I've wanted to done. I've pissed people off along the way. I'm totally okay with that. But I don't regret what I've done. I think that it's a forward path for me.
Sensei Dauphin, what you got a few more for us? You got some notes? We're not done yet.
Yeah, I guess if I love all the stuff you said, by the way, James, all of the answers. And this, as we're chatting, like we did this with Sensei Copeland, like each person we do, it gets more like us sitting around a coffee table, just shooting the shit, which I really love, because for me, that's been one of the most like influential ways I've learned martial arts. That abstract side of it, not the physical side of it, the inspiration, the history, the drive behind people is sitting in the backseat of Sensei Legacy's car while he was talking to somebody else driving around. So sometimes it was Sensei Suino, like sitting at a dinner table, or I just would try and sidle up as close as I could get while they were talking about stuff. And I feel like we're doing that right now. Like I feel like that's what we're doing. It's easy to do with you, James, because you and I do this. We're planning to do it tomorrow somewhere on a patio somewhere in Kitchener. So that's fun. But a passion that you and I and Sean Benson and Sensei Legacy all share is Matsumura Hakutsuru. What is it about Hakutsuru that you feel? I'm putting you on the spot because obviously your teacher right now is looking at you going, "Okay, motherfucker, what are you gonna have to say about this?" Right? But what do you think that's bringing to your training now, James? Or what is it bringing to your training? Or what do you want to ask Sensei Legacy about Hakutsuru? now that we're here right now?
So it's interesting because the first time I would have been introduced to it was when we met that many years ago in St. Catharines, and I was in awe of it then. And you know, it took me many years to ask to come and do it because it felt like it was I wasn't sure how to ask, and that's the honest truth. And then when I finally asked, it's been amazing. Like, I absolutely love doing it. I don't have a other way to put it. It definitely makes me feel better when I do it. I love training with Hanshi Legacy. I mean, that the time I have with him, you know, thank you. I really love it every time we get together because I learn so much. And it's not just the white crane stuff. It's just the interaction and the talking and us being together. I gain and I learn. So I'm thankful for that. And it fits with what I do. Right. It honestly does. It makes me a better martial artist. It definitely hits the next level of what I want to do. So, yeah. And that's the short answer. I think it definitely completes and helps out with everything I'm doing.
You know, one of the things I love so much about what I just heard is that, you know, it's one thing when like the Y has a program or there's a school with a fancy entrance, but at a certain point, it's just an adult walking up to another adult and saying, can you teach me? And I've talked about this a lot on my Instagram. Like, I don't think mentorship and one-on-one instruction is something that's encouraged enough these days, because the idea of going to someone technically on a bended knee and saying, you know more than me, I will offer myself to you as a student. Because again, if your parent swipes a credit card when you're 10 and you start, that's awesome. That's a great way to start. But if you're our age and you need to find something and that person has it, I love that you just had to figure out how to ask another man how to offer you what he has.
Yeah.
Sensei Legacy. What do you think of Heritage? Any thoughts that you want to share about Kyoshi Freeze and the students there that you go and train with? It's been a long time now. Like, you've been going for more than a minute. Like, you've been going for a number of years now. Over to Heritage and training with a good group of people. How do you feel about going there, and what is it that you like about it when you go there?
Well, it's a terrific place to be, quite honestly. Everybody there, I've never seen a slacker in the place, and you know, that's what I look for. A lot of times I don't like to go to places where that is happening. It's always active. James is a great student, trains hard all the time. And does it on the floor, doesn't talk about it. He's always on the floor. That to me says a lot about a person who, a lot like Sandoval, he wanted to be in the trenches because that's where all the action is. You get to be a better fighter there. That's where I find James goes where he can be challenged and become better. And I appreciate that in a student. That makes a teacher just want to teach more. So it's sort of a habit, back and forth, feeding off each other. So sometimes I learn as much from him from the white crane as he does from me.
Thanks, Hanshi.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I and you having to put up with me trying to figure out some of the moves in the white crane. I mean, it's some of them are pretty challenging. It's like, wow. I think my head turns sideways sometimes when you show me. I'm like, okay, I'll keep trying.
You're doing it.
Thank you.
So, you know, we're generally going to go around the horn here, as we do. Sensei Freeze, you know it. We're already 10 minutes overtime. I understand why, you know, Sensei Dauphin's my teacher, but he's also one of my favorite people on the planet, and I'm lucky enough to call him a best friend. I get why he calls you one of his best friends. This has been an incredible time for me to listen to you and get to know you a little better. And I don't know why I'm surprised, but everything you said, I just leaned forward and thought, oh, I need to be around this man more. And I don't know how your screens are set up, everybody, but mine has me in the center and then the senseis around. So when Kyoshi Freeze and Kyoshi Dauphin are talking about Bankai and ideas, this is my version of being in the back of the car while one of them's driving and they're riffing out ideas. And I just get to sit back and I just want to say what a pleasure it is to not just watch your ideas flow and hear your answers to things, but honestly, not a shred of false humility. I mean, to hear you so genuinely just want to be a part of this as well. I get that and I appreciate that. Sensei Suino, you wanna chip in any thoughts about the night?
Yeah, I love being part of the martial arts community. You know, everybody we've had some amazing people. Just in the short time this program has existed, we've had some amazing people on here, and everybody's so genuine and seriously positive. I think martial arts does that if you stick with it long enough, especially the real stuff, the pressure tested stuff. That's why I liked what you were talking about earlier, Sensei Freeze. Kata alone is not good enough because you got to have some pressure testing. And I think a lifetime of that, decades of serious training around great people with some pressure testing gives us a certain humility and discipline, which just makes great people. Nobody on any of these calls, I would say, hey, gosh, I really don't want to be around that person. You know, I would never want to be friends with that person. Everybody's just solid, rock solid human beings. You know, when you asked that question and each of us answered about, you know, if there's one thing you learned from the martial arts that you want everybody to learn, man, if we could take that and sprinkle that dust around the planet right now, it would be transformative, right? There is so much desperation and striving and lack of integrity and character on the planet, but you haven't seen an ounce of that in anybody. And Sensei Freeze, you know, thanks for being a part of this. I'm honored to have you here.
I'm honored to be here. So it's been an amazing thing.
We'll go out with Sensei Dauphin just because of his special friendship with Sensei Freeze. Hanshi Legacy, you want to wind up your thoughts on the night at all?
Oh, it was a great night. And again, it's good for Canadian karate to have people that are now karate, right? Where the people, karate is when somebody dies, karate doesn't go with it. It's something that's just carried along by certain people who dedicate their lives to it. James is one of those guys.
Sensei Dauphin?
Yeah, I'm always blown away because every time we do this, there's certain things that I leave and different people say things and it just sticks in my head. And, you know, I've called you after Benson and we've chatted about it. Like that's one, like what Sensei Legacy just said, like, I know like for the next like 5 or 6 days, I'll be driving around thinking about those words and it'll be seeping into me. I can honestly say so far, well, I'll be a little controversial. I'll be a little more controversial than Sensei Suino, which is unusual. Not everybody that we've had on the show would I want to hang around with, but all of the most important people in my life have been on this show or are going to be on this show. And James is definitely one of those most important people. And if you were going to ask me, since we're talking about the 10 questions, which, you know, one of the things I'd be looking forward to most in the next 5 years is spending as much fucking time with James as I possibly could. Right. I love that guy. I'm going to be there lots of times on Friday nights, fighting with him. You're going to see lots of posts of Facebook with me and him and Adette, the three musketeers, like sticking our heads together. I'm going to be training White Crane with him in Sensei Legacy. I'm going to be dragging him down to Michigan to train Iaido or do the Crucible with Sensei Suino. And in the end, you know, there's nothing I'll be doing where James isn't invited to it. There's nothing I'll be doing where he won't be welcome and where I won't want to see him or I wouldn't be excited. There's no place I would find myself where when the door opened and James came walking in, I wouldn't be super fucking excited to see him walking in the door. And I wouldn't be getting up to walk across the room to give him a big hug. And my life got better when I met James, and I know it's just going to keep getting better as we move forward together. And I appreciate everything he does for me, and I'll be looking for every opportunity to do something back for him. And if you don't know him, you want to know him. And if you don't want to know him, then you don't want to know me or any of the people on this call, because you're an idiot.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Sensei Freeze, fuck yeah. You wanna wind us up? You wanna give us your parting thoughts before I housekeep us out of here?
You know what? I'm pretty much speechless at this point. I've had an amazing night talking with everybody and being on here, and you know, I can't express how much thanks I have for having me here. You know, I don't even, like I said, it's been amazing. I can thank, you know, I look back to all the times, you know, one of the things I haven't mentioned on this, and I will mention, is my personal family has supported me through everything I've done. So I want to say that because I don't mention it probably enough, but it is one of those things that's super dear and important to me, that they've been there for that support, you know, and they do pick me up. You know, if I have a shitty attitude on, somebody will do that. And the other person that does that too is also Kyoshi Rice and Kyoshi Buffoon. They, you know, everybody has those moments, and they're the ones that will say, you know what, get off your ass and get going. And my parents do that. You know, Angel do that. The people that are close to me do those things because I'm okay with it, right? I've never had a problem with that, and that's why we're all close, and that's why we do things. So, yeah, I'm completely humbled here. I don't know what else to really say other than thank you. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sensei. This has been a real pleasure. I actually don't want to stop chatting. It's always the case, but as Sensei Dauphin said, maybe it's not always the case, and tonight it's the case. Please join us next week. Hanshi Legacy is our first return guest. We just scratched the surface with him last time, and I'm so excited for you all to come with us on the ride as we go a little deeper into the chats or cover some more territory. 8:30 again. The week after, then we'll be off, and then we're cooking up some more. Like, we've got some 99% stuff. Me and Sensei Dauphin, Sensei Sweet are so excited to let you know what's coming up. But for next week, it's as exciting as anything coming up with Hanshi Legacy. Please stay safe out there. This is a personal Sean Benson opinion, which is things are opening up, but we don't have a cure yet for this thing. So do be careful. Do be safe. You all got to make your own choices. Don't shame anybody for their best practices. But at the same time, my best practice includes wearing a mask and still distancing with people who aren't in my bubble. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want everyone to be safe, and I want to get back to the full opening. That's my little pitch, because I love you all, and I want to hug you all, and I want to roll with you all, and I want to be punched by you all. So that's where I'm going with it. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a week. Don't touch your face.